Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is where you're at. Welcome to another edition of our Skype meeting broadcast for IT pros, where we cover the topics that you guys care about. Today, I have brought in one of my favorite colleagues from engineering, sat here, and here we go. This is a long-running joke here. Ron Walla.
Few more years, man. Few more years, and I think you'll get it. Yeah, Sabir Randhawa
okay.
is my name. Yes.
You sure you don't want to change it to Smith? There's no way. Okay.
I'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what we're here to do is actually walk you through the Windows clients update today, and so we'll talk about what's new in the client. Yep. We'll run through all that, you know what? I'm getting the sign. I forgot. Just so you know, I'm part of the marketing team here at Skype for Business. We look after different parts of the core product. I look after the client experience. And Sabir, why don't you introduce yourself, actually?
Great, thank you. I'm glad, very happy to be here. I'm a product owner, a product manager for desktop client, working for Skype for Business for about a year now. I've been with Microsoft for 15 years, so a little bit of experience under my belt, and it's never been an exciting place.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So I'm just getting my slides set up. And I forgot to click take over as presenter, so just give me a second. But really what we want to do is walk you through all this content, and then we'll be able to find out what's going on. So essentially our broadcast objectives today really is to have you understand all the innovation that's coming into the Skype for Business Windows client. And Sabir's also brought a section on deployment, because I know with some new things, things are different for folks, and we're going to walk them through so that I hope they understand it. In terms of takeaways, when the broadcast is over, how we feel successful is if you would say, yes, I understand that there's frequent innovation occurring in the Windows client. It's not just static, it's really changing a lot every month. And you guys understand that the monthly innovations really are coming through our deployment technology called C2R. And that way you guys know how to have the latest when you want it. So with that, I think, why don't I let you take it away?
Sure, absolutely. It actually has been our goal to get our innovations to customers as quickly as possible.
Right.
We're trying to be efficient about it. We are trying to be very predictable with our deployments, and we want to make sure that people understand, how to take advantage of all the innovation that we're delivering. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was all the good stuff that happened in January. We've been delivering monthly updates. We're starting to deliver monthly updates starting January. And there's a lot of work that has gone, that engineering team has been doing, that I'd love to talk about today. Some of these may be considered little, but little by little, we're actually making the experience of you conducting your meetings, being more productive in your conversations with other people. Things like, hey, when content is presented, just auto-accept it. There's no need for you to actually get an additional permission, an additional prompt to actually go, mess with your mouse while you're trying to get a problem solved. We're trying to do things like, hey, if you're connected to a desktop, if there's only one desktop, why give you a choice to actually pick which desktop you want to present. So little things, but they make a big difference. One of my favorite features, I was talking with, we were in a meeting yesterday, and the presenters very, very nervous about switching devices to get to.
And realistically, they should be a little nervous, because in the past there was always a little bit of hesitancy of what was really going to happen when we, in minutes of a live meeting, we just jump onto changing what device is plugged in by USB.
And then you get muted. You're talking, and then you get muted, and then you fumble across, and it just is a very painful experience. That no longer is the case. I asked a presenter to actually just switch a device, and she was a little nervous at first, but as soon as she switched, guess what happened? We didn't get muted. We got a little prompt that said, "Hey, do you want to switch to device?" And click yes, great. And we were on the new device, no problems at all.
These little details are so important to customers. One I have, and I'm going to ask you about because it's on the list, is this meeting join without mic or speaker. And at first you might say, well, hey, collaboration software, why would you do that? That seems really strange, actually. And so the reality is actually, I can tell you that, at Microsoft, we do this internal training every 6 months, and we have up to 5,000 field people come in to headquarters, and we do this training, and we do a bunch of side meetings. So one of the side meetings I was approached by a TSB, a technical solutions professional, and he was based, I want to say, Latvia or a country out there, or that kind of area. And literally he said to me, you know what? I've got two customers, not one, two customers who have a whole chunk of PCs that can't join because they're so cost conscious. It was cheaper for them to buy actually PCs without a mic or speaker, and then they decided they wanted to have Skype for Business, and they could not join meetings. But that's changed, right?
Yes, no longer the case. You can actually join a meeting, watch that, the shared content on your big desktop that may not have a microphone or a sound device. You can use your phone while you're actually, watching, and you can actually ask questions and such. There's no hard requirement that you have to have a device, audio device, in order to actually join a meeting from a desktop client. There's so many different scenarios that we can't imagine that we enable, by doing these little things, and we're trying to do it, again, monthly innovation. We're trying to get that out to our customers as quickly as possible. Being predictable, no matter how small or big they are, we want to get them to the customers as quickly as possible.
Yep, makes sense.
The other, we did release another, I believe, a good feature for new users. Before, when you got into a meeting, or at least a client, you actually had no contacts. It was a complete empty, contact list. We're adding this new feature called Smart Contact, and it lets you connect with all your peers, all your teammates, as quickly as as you join this new team. You actually have a list of all your teammates. You can start having a conversation with them. It's a good feature. We've gotten good feedback on that feature itself.
This is one of those amazing moments where the convergence of Skype Consumer and Skype for Business brings us great value because we have an enormous amount of telemetry coming in from Skype Consumer. We have telemetry from Skype for Business. And one of the things that hardworking guys like SfB have learned is that when we have new users and we don't find any way to sort of get them engaged, it's kind of like a party, right? If you show up at a party and you're standing sort of at the front door and you never walk in to find the keg or whatever you're looking for, you are probably one of those people who will leave that party early. And that's the same thing with collaboration software. We have to get you engaged. And one of the engagement techniques is the Smart Team Contacts. And by the way, I'm getting the sign from my executive producer. We should definitely communicate to you that we also have something called Bing Pulse happening during this broadcast. And we're asking you questions. And guess what that is? That's telemetry. So we're getting information from you about how you feel about the broadcast, what's important to you, what's not important to you. You cannot underestimate how important that feedback is. So please, as you're watching us talk, go ahead and click that. You don't want to look at us anyways. Go ahead and click on the Bing Pulse and answer those questions for us.
I think the last thing that I wanted to touch on was the meeting reminder feature.
Yes.
This is the feature where if you have a meeting and you're sitting there, you're doing your email or on the phone or talking with somebody else, a reminder will pop up and saying, hey, you have a meeting going on. You want to just go click join, and we're actually doing that actually shipped as part of our January release.
That's right.
As a monthly update.
And we definitely got feedback on it.
We did get good. So we tend to get good feedback. We tend to get bad feedback. We listen to all feedback that comes in, and we actually take action, and we make the improvements that are needed to the product and get it back to the customers as quickly as possible.
So that's yet another indicator. So we are trying to make it a direct connection to you. That Yammer IT Pro form is awesome. You guys know that. Some of you recognize my name. Hopefully you know I'm out there. And when you post about, hey, there's this feature happening and we didn't hear about it or we're surprised, we really try to engage and let you know. And one of the things we learned, our own telemetry, was we have to do a better job of telling you about stuff. This monthly innovation is amazing, but we have to tell you about it. And so this is one of the options we have. And so you have to let us know if this is the kind of thing you want and that this works for you.
Yeah, and then we've been looking at other sort of avenues to get the word out, updating our documentation. We're working with the Office team to make sure that our data is actually incorporated into the whole, Office client release itself. And you'll hear more about that as soon as we solidify on that plan.
That sounds great. And we just showed you what I call our magical basket of features, all of them a little bit smaller, but so we grouped them together in one slide. But this is really exciting. Some of you have already heard of this, but we're really proud of this video-based screen sharing. Sapir, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we're very excited about this feature. Video-based sharing is fast, gets you connected very quickly, and the best part about it is it doesn't take that much bandwidth at all. Our tests are showing that it's more reliable than RDP. RDP just doesn't go away still. You actually, if you are sharing, if you're interacting, if you need one of the attendees to actually interact with the screen, you can switch back to RDP just as easily. So it's a great experience. You can even, I think we did a demo on this where we can watch a video from a different screen, and it's crisp as anything.
That's right. And so just a quick reminder, RDP is our traditional sharing methodology, focusing on high fidelity sharing. And it really is high fidelity. But the reality is that you as a customer are using our product in many different places, including people connected through lighter weight connections. Maybe they're sitting somewhere on the public internet. Maybe they're having a coffee at Starbucks. And so this technology really solves a lot of those bandwidth problems and reliability problems in those scenarios, because as much as you guys loved RDP, the reality is most sharing really is see what I see. That's the scenario. And so VBSS, as we like to call it, supports that. We released it in September. It was for peer-to-peer sharing, and then now, again, the great work from the team that Sapir's on, we now have it available to us in meetings as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Great. So we take a look at the next piece here. Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? And I slipped in a little minor Easter egg, right? So here's a few words you probably would never hear together. Charles Barkley meeting Skype for Business. That actually is Charles Barkley. One of our great partners, CDW, actually was selling Surfaces, and as part of that, they featured software, Skype for Business, and Charles Barkley's in a commercial. I don't know how many of you got to see that commercial. I wish we could play it here or something like that. Now, it does belong to them. There's some legal restrictions, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could find it somewhere on the internet, and it's just kind of hilarious. Like, of all the stars we could have gotten, Charles Barkley, but he does a great job. It's really funny. So if you get a chance, go see that. I had to slip that in. Sorry about that.
No, it's great plug. This is another one of a fun feature which helps you get collaboration up and running very quickly. So this is the co-authoring Office documents. We take care of all of the nitty-gritty collaboration tech that you need to that you shouldn't have to worry about. You're working on a document, you upload it to OneDrive, and you want to work with somebody to collaborate on the document itself. You start a session. It's a very fun, interactive session. We permission the document on your behalf, and you can see, you can talk, you can see the changes that are being made in real time. You can have multiple people working on the same document. It's a fun way to actually collaborate. So I really like this feature. This was also one of the features that we shipped as part of 2016 back in October timeframe.
Yeah, it's a great feature, and in fact, my team uses it. And if you look at that screenshot on the right, on the upper, that's actually. They're not. There's not models in there, although we have a couple folks who are pretty darn good looking on this thing. But we have literally a team working together on it is a sample document, but this is exactly how we use it. We get together and we talk about this stuff. So really a great feature.
Right.
Good.
So we've been talking a whole lot about all the innovation that we've been working on. But how do end users actually get the content, the great features that we're building? So I wanted to touch on that a little bit. And if we go to the next slide, you can there's different ways to get the latest bits. There's actually 3 channels that you can get. Current channel, which is our monthly releases that go out to actually all the consumer, 20 million consumers or however many consumers are out there that is subscribed to current channel. And this gives you latest and greatest features every month. Right. So as soon as they come off of the the belt, if you will, they get to customers' end.
that whole bucket we show, that first basket of features, a lot of those have already turned up. Is that right?
Yes, in current channel, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Now, we've also heard, from IT pros that, hey, look, we have all these internal applications that we need some time to actually try out the new bits before we actually do a rollout to our whole organization. And then you have a choice to actually just do a first release for deferred channel. Deferred channel is our 4-month release. So you can get on a 4-month release versus every month release. And if you still want to have some customers or some users in your organization to try out these features early on before they go into broad release, you can subscribe to the first release for deferred channel, and all these new features will get to those customers, those users, and they can try it out, see what's working, what's not working for them. Give us the feedback. This is our way to actually have you pilot the new features. Give us feedback. Let us help us shape the product to fit your needs. And again, we are listening. We are listening to all the feedback that we get and make the appropriate changes as necessary. And Paul, I know you're smiling, and you hear a lot of this feedback, and we have a lot of discussions about that feedback that comes in.
That's right. So when you guys post out there and you ask me if I don't have the right answers, this is one of my first stops is my subject matter expert, Sapir. But I'll just point out, this is really interesting because there is a little bit of dialogue going out on our IT Pro forum about, sometimes people feel surprised or other things like that. Totally understand. What this probably means, though, is that you need to review how you've configured Office 365 updates for your clients, right? Make sure you have the right audiences. As much as we want everybody in that, first release bucket, we understand that there's probably some people in your organization that you don't want in that first release bucket. And what you want to do is make sure that they're in the appropriate bucket so that you can preview the clients, make sure you have enough people in that one, and then you'll be able to have them in the deferred channel, and there won't be as many surprises.
Yeah, and I think an example would sort of solidify what we've been talking about. So in February, for example, we had, we did a release. We released the current channel release, which had a lot of the new features that came out. Right. We also did a first release for the deferred channel. That release is going to become the deferred channel release 4 months from February. So in June, you'll actually get those features out to a broader audience. If you were on the deferred channel, you're getting them, getting bits that are stabilized for 4 months. You've given us the feedback. We've taken that feedback. We made the fixes. We put it in, and all the stabilization has already happened.
And so we're getting live feedback from you guys through our producers that you're already asking, how do we configure these channels? So guess what? We feel pretty smart because the next slide is how to configure the channels. So go ahead and walk them through this a little bit.
Yeah. So if you are an admin, you actually have the access to your admin portal. On admin portal, there's actually two screens that you want to be aware of. The first one is picking the software that you want. We actually have the ability to there are customers out there that want to pick legacy versions of Office, and so you still have that option. We obviously would like for you to actually try 2016 so that at least you're picking up the latest innovation that we're delivering. And even in 2016, you get the option of picking the monthly release or every 4-month release, and that's how you pick the current channel versus the deferred channel. Okay. Now then you decide, hey, look, that's great. That's for my standard user base. Right. But for some of my organization or the entire organization, if you're so choose, you can actually pick go to the next the next slide screen that you see over here, which has the updates for selecting how fast you want to pick up these updates. You can actually pick the standard release for everyone. You can pick for subset of those users. You can pick first release, and so that you can actually do a pilot appropriately and get that feedback to us.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think between these two option screens, you can configure all of your users in the appropriate way, so we can get more feedback, and you can make sure that the right users are getting the right version at the right time. So kind of combined with that is this whole question around C2R technology versus what probably many of our folks on this call remember is MSI as well. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a pretty complex sort of matrix, if you will. But I think the key takeaway here is that if for the same version, you can't mix and match the installed technologies.
Right.
So that is uh, so if you, for example, have 2016 C2R installed of Office and you want to install standalone Skype for Business 2016, you will have to use C2R bits for that. And if you had, a mix and match of MSI, let's say you install 2013 MSI build, you can actually have a C2R build of Skype for Business standalone. So basically, essentially, this matrix, what it's trying to show you is that you have the option of installing Office independent of Skype for Business. You can have different versions. Let's say you have Excel plugins that you really don't want to have to update, and they're really dependent on 2013. You can keep Excel and Office client on 2013 and still move to Skype for Business, the latest bits for it.
That's great. I think the key takeaway is just understand what your deployment looks like today, and as you roll stuff out, go ahead and think about it. And probably also related is an understanding what is the difference in terms of updates between C2R and MSI. Do you think we could talk a little bit about that in terms of how C2R is monthly and MSI is a little different?
Absolutely. So the MSI bits are really our volume licensing bits that you go to your volume license and then you do a deployment, and we do not do our feature innovations in the MSI. We don't actually. A lot of the times we actually, our preference is C2R bits are the ones that are going to be getting the monthly updates from feature perspective and such. So all the options that you just saw are C2R specific and not MSI specific changes.
Now, eventually MSI catches up, right? Is that
it does?
It does.
It does. It's just a little behind, and you don't have the same flexibility as I just showed you for deferred channel versus early channel. You just don't have that ability with MSI.
Which totally makes sense.
You do have a lot of the capabilities that you have with MSI for C2R in terms of how you deploy it, how you want to sort of manage your network. Bandwidth perspective. From a bandwidth perspective, there's concerns about hey, I don't want to download a bunch of stuff from Office. You can actually the configuration tools let you take advantage of the deployment configuration for C2R. Are much more advanced than actually MSI in some ways.
Right, that's right. That makes sense. And then, but what about security updates then?
It's a great question. So each one of these channels, as well as MSI, will actually get monthly security updates.
Great.
And no matter so there'll be a security patch for every channel. So rest assured that you will be getting those. Now for deferred channel, you're supported 8 months. So you have the 4 months to stabilize. So you're on the first release for the first 4 months. You move over to your deferred channel for the next 4 months. We're providing security updates throughout, and then you eventually move over to the next deferred channel, which has the next 4 months of features.
Gotcha. Okay. Hopefully, I know that topic. We'll probably be covering this topic more as we go on in future broadcasts because it's always of interest how our deployment technologies interlock together. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a feature that is near and dear to your heart, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, what we've been talking about so far is what's been done and what has been shipped or near shipping. I did want to come and talk about one of our features, one of my favorite features that we've been working on.
So this is actually future stuff we're doing.
This is the future
stuff. That's awesome. I'd asked you to do that, and I know I didn't set that up quite properly, but that is great that we slipped in a little bit. And if your boss calls, you can let him know it was marketing's fault.
We're pretty excited about this feature. Essentially, it lets you contact those users that are offline, that are not signed into Skype for Business. We no longer
big ask, right? This has been a big thing. I know a lot of people asking us, when can we send an offline I am. So
absolutely, and you know, basically the ability to send a person an offline message lets you, you know, have them contact you when they're available. You can read the recipient can read the message even if they don't have the latest and greatest you know, bits of Skype for Business. In fact, you can actually just use email if you can get the message in your email, so the recipient can actually read it anywhere from, you know, your email or Skype for Business or a link client. So we're making sure that the message gets received by the recipient.
got you.
And then we've also touched up the recipient experience on the latest client, so that it's easy for you to actually see the messages that you've missed while you were offline. So when you sign in, we'll notify you, hey, there were some missed messages. Go here to see them. And then, you know, we've updated counters to make sure that you don't actually miss anything that was sent when you were offline.
That's great. And I know people ask, obviously, this innovation is coming to the Windows client first, but the next question, of course, will be, what about the other platforms?
Absolutely.
I know, for instance, I've been pestering your colleague on your team about when will the Skype for Business Mac client, which is coming in the future, when will that get offline messaging and things like that?
Yeah, so this will we are starting with the desktop client, but you know, all of the different platforms are going to get this support or in the future. So this is something, you know, that we're working on, and rest assured, all of the clients should be getting it.
Great. Yeah, and I think it'll be pretty exciting. So let's go ahead and drop into a wrap up. But before I do that, let's talk about a couple things. Number one, I want to remind you again, there's the Bing Pulse. That is our primary way we understand how you feel about this broadcast. And if you don't like it, you got to give us that feedback. And if you love it, you've got to give that feedback to my boss. So let's go ahead and definitely check on all those questions and just give us a quick answer on that. And we're also love to know, how do you like our new Madman-esque background here? This is a collaboration space that sits right outside our offices. So most of the Skype for Business people like Jamie Stark and Sean Wilson are sitting right over in this area, and they're able to join us in this area. So if you happen to notice, we might have had a couple people walk by who looked as confused as anyone could be, because we're doing a live broadcast in the middle of the hallway, essentially. And we think it's great. And if you heard somebody clearing their throat or coughing, we had somebody with a little bit of coughing. But I think it's all good. This kind of tells you that, hey, this is real. This is not a highfalutin video scenario. This is literally just us, you, and a great camera and talking about our products. So with that, I'd like to wrap it up a little bit. And so just kind of cover back on the topics. Number one, great monthly innovations are coming for the Windows client. You know, I've been hearing here and there just kind of little random whispers about, hey, it seems like they're not doing it in the Windows client. So I brought SfB here to prove to you it's not true. We're actually doing monthly innovation. There's a lot of great stuff. Now, the best approach we think now is, and the one we're solidly behind, is the new technology of C2R. So if you can, if it's appropriate for your organization, we recommend you use it. It gives you that fine-tuning control right from a couple clicks inside the Office 365 experience, so you can control what versions people get and whether or not they're getting a deferred version or they're getting something very current. Some of you might ask about VDI, because that's clearly a big deal. We did a long broadcast, my colleague Jamie Stark with Francois, and they talked a lot about it. So just go back through the YouTube channel and look for that one. That was our last broadcast. That was a really good one. And so they covered off on VDI and Skype for Business. I want to point out that because we also advertise this through Twitter and other social media, you may not be aware there is a Yammer forum out there. It's a public Yammer forum for Skype for Business IT pros. That's where we lurk every day. And, you know, so this is not like some crew that you see on video and then you never see them again because they're all professional. You can clearly look. This is not a professional video guy here. So what we do is we go out to that forum and we literally interact with folks, and questions are asked, and when we can answer them, we do our best to answer them, and when we can't, we run down poor hapless colleagues like SfB to help us answer these questions. So get out there, join that forum, and participate and find out what's going on. And because you know, there's one of you out there right now I'm looking at through the camera, you're going to ask me about Skype for Business Mac. No matter what we talk about, you ask me about Skype for Business Mac, and that's great because you're keeping us honest. We have the preview coming soon. I would say roughly late March, early April, but that is a target time, and quality will be our bar. But yes, expect that coming soon, and then it will be a feature palooza between that client and the Windows client, where we'll have basically a mudroom, and SfB will fight with the Mac client. program manager decide who gets the next feature. Not quite, but we're going to really, I think it's really going to change some of the way we do things. I don't know if you have any last words for us or not.
No, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well. We've been working very hard to get our features out, innovating them as quickly as possible, and we'd love to get your feedback. So I hope you guys subscribe to the latest, the first release, and give us that feedback. Keep it coming. We love it.
All right, guys, signing off. Thanks.